Myself, Mrs. Kishori Sutar, Assistant Professor, working in Department of Pharmaceutics, Kaili College of Pharmacy, Belgaum. So today I'll be discussing about various pilot plant scale-up techniques. So the contents of today's presentation include the introduction, objectives of the pilot plant, what are its importance, the layout, pilot plant design, its operations, and the references. So coming to the introduction, first we need to understand what is a pilot plant. So a pilot plant is defined as a part of a pharmaceutical industry where a lab scale formula is transformed into a viable product by the development of liable practical procedure for manufacture. So coming to the explanation, first of all, before a large scale production has been done, the trials are carried out in the research and development sector. Once it has been approved, the formula is transferred for pilot plant production, wherein small scale production is carried out. Once it passes all the regulations and norms, and the pilot plant documentation head gives a green signal, it has been then converted into the production area. So the next definition is of scale up, which is an intermediate department between R&D and production. So scale up is nothing but it is an art of designing a prototype using the data that is obtained from the pilot plant model. So scale up is nothing but just a larger scale than pilot plant, but a lesser scale than production. So scale up is an intermediate development sector which lies between R&D and the production. So if you just look into the flowchart here, when the production of any dosage form begins, it is in the initial stage wherein trials are carried out in the research and development area. Once it gets a green signal or an approval, this formula is transferred for the pilot scale, which is a smaller one. It is then optimized and given a green signal for next production, that is scale up, a little bit larger area, and then it goes for the final production. So this is how the scale moves from R&D to the large scale production. Here I have just explained about what is the difference between a pilot scale and a scale up. So as I was mentioning, pilot scale is an intermediate batch scale where manufacturing of the drug products are being carried out by various procedures. There is a full representation of simulations so that a manufacturing scale can be obtained. Whereas the next flow you can see here is of scale up, which is next to pilot scale. And here the process of various batches are being carried out, like mixing. Then we are going to apply various techniques for large scale production. And then the different output volumes are being given for tableting. Coming to the objectives of the pilot plant. So in the inverted commas, we are mentioning a sentence which is very important here. It finds mistakes on small scale and make profit on large scale. So pilot plant, we can say that it is a rectification department wherein if you have any errors or any problems, it can be rectified in the pilot plant development only. And then once the desired outputs are achieved, we can go for the large scale production. So coming to the first objective, the objective is to produce physically and chemically stable therapeutic dosage form. So with this motto, we are designing any dosage form in a pilot plant so that we get a physically and stable, chemically stable therapeutic dosage form. Then the second objective is to review the processing equipment. So as we all know that in pilot plant, we have various equipments which are on smaller scale. We need to validate them, we need to optimize them, and we need to also confirm that whatever production has been done in the pilot scale can be optimized and the same equipment can be replicated for a large scale production. The next objective is it has to follow the guidelines for the production and the process control. It also requires evaluation and validation. Then pilot plant identifies the critical features of the process or the method of manufacturing. It provides master manufacturing formula. So very important is here is about the master manufacturing formula, because pilot plant gives us a small scale manufacturing formula which has to be converted for large scale manufacturing. Moving next, then the objectives of the scale up, they are classified as follows: formulation related identification and control of critical components and other variables. So these variables are controlled in the scale-up techniques. Then we have, these are the formulatory related objectives. The next is equipment related objectives. We need to identify and control the parameters and the operational ranges. So equipment related parameters may be the speed, maybe the airflow, the temperature, the mixing blend temperature. These all controls are being controlled in the scale-up technique. The next is production and process related variables, wherein evaluation, validation, and finalization of the process controls have been done. The next is product related. So product related objectives are development and validation of reprocessing of the procedures. And lastly, the documentation areas, wherein the records and reports according to the current good manufacturing practices are being filed up. So we have understood what are the objectives, we know the definitions. Now we need to understand what is the need. Why is pilot scale important? So looking into the first bullet, pilot plant facilitates the transfer of product from the laboratory into production. So if you just understand this sentence, it is clearly mentioning that pilot plant scale up is nothing but conversion of a product from a pilot, that is small scale, to the large scale production. This is the need or use, or why is the necessary measures that are being taken for developing a pilot scale. The next is bench studies. That is, we need to characterize the product, we need to confirm it, we need to check its purity, maybe by assay, physical performances like melting point. We need to carry out all the purity related aspects in the pilot plant, and therefore it is a very important parameter. Animal studies can also be carried out related to toxicology, pharmacokinetics like absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. This can be done on small scale. Like instead of taking huge animal study for larger scale, first we will do a trial in a pilot plant scale up, and then we convert this data for large scale production. So this is one of the basic need that is required for pilot plant scale up studies. The next point is increasing compliance with the regulations as product moves through testing and evaluation. Then is increasing knowledge about the product, increasing various types of knowledge about the possible problems, the snags, what are the pitfalls which may be associated with the manufacturing, processing, packing, and storage of the dosage form. So this is ultimately why we need to take up a pilot plant scale up study. Next is the significance, or we can say the importance of pilot plant. So why is it important? Because we can examine what are the various formula that is involved in the pilot plant. We can review range of relevant processing equipments. We can also check the production rate adjustment. We get an idea about physical space that is required to carry out the study. We understand the appropriate records and reports that are required to support the good manufacturing practices. We can identify the critical features to maintain quality. So this is the importance. Now let us see how does the pilot plant design involves. How is the pilot plant design? It includes the first one, that is formulation and process development. Then we have clinical supply manufacture, and the third is technology evaluation, scale up, and transfer. So under these three categories, the pilot plant design is been categorized. So the flow chart, how the pilot plant works. First is the raw materials, that is collection of raw or crude materials that are required for the formulation. Then we are going to measure them if they are liquids, or we are going to weigh them if they are solids. Now, if we are considering solid dosage form, like for example, tablets, we need to mix them and obtain a blend. So distilled water can be used here. If it is a liquid preparation, filling plays a very important role. Then we are going to pack it in the suitable containers. Then storage, also important aspect, that is finished product storage. And finally, we are going to assure that the product that we have formed or formulated in the pilot scale is of good quality. The next, what are the operations of pilot plant? The operational aspects include these various sectors. So we begin with QA and QC department, that is quality assurance and quality control. Then we have a validation of all the equipments. We have training sector, wherein the new recruitments that are being done are trained. Then we have engineering support for all the requirements that are being done. We have proper maintenance and calibration of the equipment, the material flow that is moving in and out, that is in for production and out of the finished products. We have inventory, orders, labeling, then process and manufacturing activities that are being carried out in the formulation department. And then finally, again, a cycle of QA and QC. So these are the operational aspects of a pilot plant. Coming to the validation aspect, what does validation include? So validation is nothing but which is going to confirm that the desired product, what you have formulated, is of good quality, it is optimized, it is safe enough, and it is efficacious. So validation include design specifications. We need to design a proper protocol or a formula for pilot plant. Then we have installation qualifications, wherein all the equipments are installed according to the flow requirement for the formulation. Then we have operational qualification, which includes the method or the procedure that is involved to formulate a product. Then the performance qualification is the output that is given by an instrument. And then all these parameters should comply with the current good manufacturing practices and FDA standards. Training, again, important sector of the pilot plant. So training has to be given to the personnel or the people who are involved in this pilot plant. They need to comply with the GMP. They need to include the safety and environmental responsibilities. They have to involve the compliance with the SOPs, whatever products are manufactured, or the instrument that has been working should comply with the standard operating procedures that are been given. Then technical skills and knowledge is a continuous process that is required to train the personnel which may be working into the department. So training is very important when it is related to developing skills, because a skilled person who is working in a pilot plant should have a proper knowledge about that particular department. Next is engineering support. People who are working in this department, they need to design proper facility. They should check the construction of the facility that is available. For proper coordination, scheduling, direction of ongoing operations is also very important, and validation of the facility. Until any type of process is validated, it is not confirmed that the output is 100%. So validation of all the facilities that are being given in the pilot plant are very, very important. Next is maintenance and calibration. So to ensure that data integrity and equipment reliability. So whatever data is obtained may be related to the production or may be related to the evaluation of the product. The data should have a proper integrity. It should be linked properly, and there shouldn't be any manipulations. The actual data has to be integratized, and the equipment reliability. So whatever machineries are being involved in the manufacturing process should be reliable. The equipment should be of good grade. The output that is produced by the desired equipment should be 100% assured. Next, it is going to meet the current good manufacturing norms. So CGMP norms should be fulfilled by each and every department which is involved in the pilot plant scale-up technique. Then is computerized system. So as you all know that whatever data, whatever results are being generated is through the computerized system. So first it involves material control, then we have inventory, the orders, and labeling. So this is the subdivision of the computerized system. Next, moving to the process and manufacturing activities. So the extreme top, you can see the formulation and process development studies are being carried out. Then we have technology evaluation, that is scale up, which is a higher department of pilot scale and a lower department of large scale production. And then we transfer this data from the sending unit, that is R&D, and the receiving unit is the large scale production. Then we have clinical supply manufacture. Until any product is clinically proven, it cannot be used for human purpose. Therefore, clinical study is very important for each of the development. Next is quality control. Until the quality of the product is controlled or if it is measured, we cannot say that the product is reliable. So for this purpose, we need to have release testing of the finished product. Like for example, if we have a tablet, until we carry out all its evaluation parameters, we cannot say that the finished product is desirable for use. The next is physical, chemical, and microbiological testing of finished clinical products, components, required for clinical supplies. So any entity, any dosage form which is coming for human use should be tested for its physical parameters, chemical components, and it should be desirable for killing of the various microorganisms or for the purpose for which it has been used. Next is testing for validation and revalidation programs. As I was mentioning you all, until the validation process is completed, the process is never said to be that it is 100% assured. Therefore, validation and revalidation is a continuous process that is carried out starting from research and development up to the large scale production. Then QC, which is the quality control, in process testing during development, and we have scale up. So quality control department is not playing an important role only after the end product, but QC department is checking the quality during the time of production also. Like, for example, if I'm saying a tablet has been formulated in a pilot plant, first of all, whether the desired hardness is obtained or no is been carried out during the process. This is called as in process. When the tablets are punched into the rotary punching machine, immediately some sets of tablets are taken out, their hardness is checked. If it is desirable, a green signal is obtained and the process can be continued. If not, it is stopped, the checked variables are being corrected, and then again the method is continued. Therefore, quality control department plays a very important role in process and for the finished product. Then we have transfer of technology, which is a very important department, and this plays an important role from R&D to the large scale production. Next department that is present in the pilot plant is quality assurance. So once the quality is confirmed, we need to assure it, which is at the higher level. So this department includes auditing of the pilot plant, then auditing and approval of the component suppliers, like for example, API, that is an active pharmaceutical ingredient supplier, maybe of paracetamol, maybe a company named as Lupin. So when we are obtaining this API or a drug from Lupin, a confirmation, that is a certificate of analysis, has to be achieved, has to be obtained, and the same tests have to be carried out by the QC department, and the documents that are generated should be given to the QA, that is quality assurance department. They carry out the audits and then they give the approval. Next, quality assurance department is also going to review, approve, and maintain batch records for clinical supplies. Then sampling and release of raw materials and components required for clinical supplies are also been given. So the data related for sampling for the raw materials is been given to the clinical study department. Then release of clinical supplies, maintaining and distributing facility and operation procedures, that is standard operation procedures, are also been maintained by the QA department. They review and approve validation and engineering documentation. So this is about the role of QA department. Next is personnel requirement. So as I was mentioning, the people who are working in this pilot plant department should be technically sound, they should be able enough, and they should be having prompt knowledge. So theoretical knowledge of pharmaceutics is very, very important for people who are working in the formulation and development category. Next is ability to communicate. If there is proper communication, if the person is able to express his results, his views from the pilot plant to the large scale production, it will give a 100% results. Then the personnel who are working should have knowledge of electronics and computers, because as they're documenting the data, the knowledge of computers is very important. They should have capability for engineering. Okay, practical experience in pharmaceutical industry is very important. So if a fresher, after completing his education, when he enters into the industry, he will be facing the training experience, he will be as an apprentice, and once he's having a total idea, then he will be going for the formulation and development sector. So these are the personnel requirements required for pilot plant. Next is equipment requirement. So whatever equipments or the instruments that are required, they are selected based on processing characteristics of the product. Then most economical, simplest, and efficient equipments have to be used. The size should be relevant to production sized batches. This point is very important because, as I was mentioning, pilot plant involves production of smaller batches. So if I have to coat or if I have to punch around hundreds of tablets, I cannot use a large scale production equipment. So depending upon what outcome, what output is required, based on that, the instruments have to be selected. They should be easy to clean, important one, and the time required for cleaning is also very important. So these are the requirements related to the equipments that are used in pilot plant scale-up technique. Next is what amount of space is required. So space, it includes administration and information processing. Maybe some people who are sitting into the administrative department, some desktops, some chairs. So some space is required there. Then we have physical testing area, that is the quality control department. Then we have standard pilot plant equipment, the floor space, that is the space required to install the equipments required in pilot plant. Then we have the storage area. We need to store the API, the excipients, the polymers, some of the liquids that are required. So total storage area is also included into the space requirement for designing the pilot plant. Pilot plant can be used for, first of all, evaluating the results for laboratory studies, product and process corrections, sensory chemical microbiological evaluation, shelf life, that is for what time the product is going to be stable, stability studies are carried out. We are going to design and construct a full size plant or modify the existing plant. So this is how, or the reasons for which pilot plant can be used. So these are the references and some of the articles that are been referred. Thank you.